Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the International Grapevine. This is your host, Wallingford Lee. Tonight in International Grapevine, we'll talk a very touchy subject that's worldwide. We're talking about the challenges that faces women in the business world today, the ups, the downs, and what are some of the things that have held back certain women in professional business or in the corporate world. And also, we want to talk about the great job that a lot of entrepreneurs have done in this business. Again, the business world is such a complicated thing sometimes, and there's a certain amount of discrimination against women in certain parts. We're pleased today to have as our special guest none other than Dr. Neva Alexander, who happens to be a professional speaker, advisor, and trainer, and has been in the business world for a long time. It took us a while to get her, and of course, it gives us a great deal of pleasure and, of course, satisfaction to have her on our program to talk about such a sensitive subject, such as the challenges that are facing women today. Dr. Neva, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here.
Good, it's good to have you. I want to talk a little bit about the business world and women. We want to talk a little bit about the entrepreneurial business, a little bit of the corporate world, given enough time. What are some of the biggest challenges, or a woman actually prepare for the business world today?
Oh man, first I want to say that the challenge faced by, women in general is one thing, but the challenges faced by a Black woman is another. And challenge faced by a Black woman from an international background is another. Instead, so some of the challenges that I face is resistance to open the door, resistance to trust a business to give you finance. When you go to get a loan, the requirement sometimes is just tedious and not really, make it easy for you. I mean, I've spoken to individuals who give loans and they're like, well, we have to put a mortgage on your house in order to give you a business loan, and you're like, but why? You also find challenges where you have, me personally, I feel like I have to sell myself an extra step. It's just not enough for me to say that I went to do my doctorate and I have a doctorate in educational leadership. It's not enough. You always have to try to attain more, get more, prove yourself, and I don't think it is always like that. I don't think it's like that for my counterparts, so that's what I see. Finance and just proving who I am and saying, hey guys, take me seriously, and then another challenge that I find when I'm doing things in the international realm is like, okay, you're a woman, so we might be able to take advantage of you. So at times I have to smile and say, okay, thank you, but it's time to move on.
Obviously it's very tough, especially with certain lenders who doesn't understand what you're trying to do, and some lenders tend to be prejudiced at time. Is this mostly against minority or women in general?
I'm going to say minority because I deal with, so my business, Neva Lines, I offer what I call career services. It's actually a career school here in Florida, and I do business also in New York. So part of it, not just, helping business to grow. I also offer classes that are specific to the trade. Now, in reference to your questions, or that particular question, I should say, minority in a sense have to, I've heard men, Black men, um, they still have to prove themselves or have to go knocking at that door a few times before they're able to get loans. Some don't even bother. They decide, you know what, let me just keep going and climbing the business step by step. And, maybe borrow from family members or whatever, but just trust in the bank. The bank, I don't know, they'll come in and say, we are offering minority um, loans and there are opportunities, but then you find that you have to, they're like whoops that you have to keep jumping through and you still won't even get there. So,
Well, our understanding is that supposedly SBA has made it a little bit much easier for women in terms of startup business, in terms of moving forward. They claim what the SBA tend to do is ask for us an involved business plan. Can you walk us a little bit whether the SBA has made a difference? Walk us through how a business plan is prepared. Walk us through as how long it takes for a return from a lender or the SBA to give an answer in those projects.
well, you know what? I wasn't that successful to get any kind of loan, all the loans that were given away. I know others that were, a little bit luckier than I am. Kudos to them, but I wasn't able to. But I do assist businesses with a business plan in my program that I have, and pretty much your what the banks or any lenders they're looking at is the finance. So we can talk about how you're going to market your business, what your business structure looks like, your organizational charts, all that great stuff. But they're looking at um, the return. You know, you're spending this, and when are you going to make back your money? Right? So that's what they're looking at. On the other aspect, with your question in reference to how soon that you'll hear back from them, I mean, it can be anywhere from a week to a month. So that depending on how many applications they're looking at, depending on, the type of loan that you're looking to get. So it varies.
Let, let's touch on a startup. And a reason for a startup, as you mentioned before, they usually tend to give women a hard time. As a startup, I imagine they're going to ask you for a business plan. What and how much is involved into a business plan? Otherwise than saying, I want to do this type of business. Are they going to ask you if you have the background before they consider you for a loan? Or they're just going to look at your business plan and look at the projections of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and supposedly the return that is expected? Are they being fear-minded on these type of things? Are they very involved? Or can a woman go somewhere and get a business plan properly prepared in order to satisfy the SBA?
Can someone go or a minority woman, get a business plan done to satisfy the SBA? I would say yes,
Mhm.
but I don't know the percentage. I have not looked at the statistics of, to say this amount is actually getting the help that they need. Now, I did run through what's entailed in a business plan, but if someone came to me for a business plan to be done, I basically do a Zoom call, like maybe 4 or 5 times in the process. I also have someone else on my team who they're very involved with the numbers. Again, yes, a bank is going to look at the overall thing because they want to make sure that you're marketing. They want to make sure that this business that they're invested in, because that's really what they're doing, is going to sustain time. But it all always go back to the number. If you're going to show, well, um, I'm going to start doing this gas business. And they realize that gas business is not going to make money within a year. Are they going to give you the loan? I mean, that's just normal. But what if you have a good structure and it shows that you might be able to really, you might have a good business. What they might give you something, but not enough that you might be able to move forward, and how much they give you, that's another thing that you need to look at. So some people just abandon that thought and yeah, move on.
If they're abandoning the thought because they're not getting the lending, where would they go to get the funds? Would they go to family, or would they look for structure outside from other business company who might give them the loan?
They probably look for unconventional, but first people usually go to their family. Their It's depending on their age, their mom, their father, their brother, their sister, their cousins, uncles, whatever. And then the next step is they're try to get into different organizations to see if the organizations can recommend someone to, help them. And then I've gone to different networking events and I've meet different individuals that, they'll say, well, we could give someone a loan based on their W-2. So if they made over a certain amount per year, we'd be able to do that, give them a loan. But the rate may not be favorable. And that's why some will rather stick with the SBA or just try to continue pushing forward.
Is there such a thing that sometime, whether the lender or the private lender does not feel they're qualified, would they request that the borrower put up their house as a collateral? And if that is the case, how widespread that is, and is that convenient? Does that make any type of sense?
Well, I spoke with a lender a while ago. Again, I just want to say, like, I'm not deep into financing, just disclaimer. So,
Hmm.
I mean, my business is more just, I do a lot of training development. And again, it's a career school. But yes, I speak to lenders and all the time because they reach out to me based on the individuals that I'm working with, the startups to get their business going. Again, I created a program to really help startups go forward. It's like a one-on-one mentorship that I do. But when I speak to the lenders, they'll say, yes, they need collateral, right? Yeah, I could lend up to, one told me she could lend up to $1 million, but they have to have assets. They have to have something, preferably, of course, at their house, and they'll have to put a lien on their home in order for them to get the loan. And most startups, they can't do that. And they don't want to go into that type of risk. I mean, who does?